Are you like us? Tired of all the politically correct horseshit on podcasts and in the media? Need a podcast that's funny, smart, and gassy? It's not politically correct. It's just correct. This is the Carolina Underground. Throw that middle finger in the air. Raise them up. Because it's time to get loud, proud, and in your face. Generation X. The best generation of all time meets the grit of the South. It's about everything and nothing at all. From current events to woolly boogers to movies to politics. Loud, brash, funny, and never, and I do mean never, predictable. The Carolina Underground with Mark and Mike.
Yo, 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 it's the Carolina Underground, and we're back again because we're just that bad.
How you doing this evening, sir?
If I was any better, couldn't anybody stand me? I'm sitting here, I'm so sick. You know, today's episode is just going to be off the rails. I'm just going to rant a little bit. I know we had decided we were going to talk about Nikola Tesla, but I think we may just bump that to the last half or not even get to it till next week because I'm just pissed off today.
Well, go get him, big guy. I'll sit here and, the doctor is in. I'll be your therapist. But we did have quite a journey to get here. It's been, 3 days? How many times? This is at least the 8th time we've tried.
That's right. Technical difficulties. I'm on fiber internet. The fiber internet is worse than the cable internet. Who would have thunk it? Because they can't seem to get their crap together to where the ones and the zeros flow back together from wherever they're coming from in the ether here from the replica back.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things I mentioned earlier. The United States, we pay more for worse service on cell phones and internet than any developed nation on the planet, and even most of the undeveloped ones. But like I said previously, that's because our federal government has gone into the business of picking winners and losers based on who gives them the most support monetarily. So,
Well, they're not getting none from me right now. I'm not monetarily supporting nobody, and I'm going to be honest with you. I got off the phone with customers. So, everybody goes through this, but it's just aggravating. Stuff that should work nowadays just don't work.
That is true.
And it's like, don't nobody care or wonder why it don't work.
Well, again, a lot of it is by design, but I saw this today. This is a pretty good meme. It says, there's just a friendly reminder. We had more freedoms under Great Britain prior to 1776 than we do right now. 125 years ago, you did not have to ask permission from the government to collect rainwater, go fishing, own a property, start a business, renovate your home, build a home, use a transportation vehicle, get married, hunt, own a weapon, cut hair, sell a product, protest, grow food on your own property, set up a lemonade stand, or sell food. You can do virtually nothing these days without being extorted by the government and obtaining their permission first. If you still think you're free, you're deluding yourself. You live in a tax farm as a free-range human. And the thing, when you think about it.
And we have jointly stacked that first soapbox.
That's exactly right. But I mean, again, you think about it. And then you get taxed when you earn your money. You get taxed if you inherit money. You get taxed when you spend your money. You get taxed for owning the things that you bought with the money that was taxed already 2 or 3 times. And I mean, and these people use it as their own personal piggy bank. And it's ridiculous. And I mean, again, and then, did you see that clip where Carrie Lake recorded the extortion call that the committee chairman in Arizona was trying to get her to back off in her election bid? Did you see that? He resigned, by the way.
I did see that, and they were hypothesizing
Hypostasizing.
that one of the
That's a preposterous.
it just makes me want a hippopotamus
There
for
you go.
Christmas.
There you go.
But yeah, they were hypothesizing. God, I can't say that. That she had more
Oh, yeah.
recordings that didn't anybody know about and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting as well. And you think about it. Name your price to step down. How much is it going to cost? What kind of Mickey Mouse Gestapo crap did that guy even think he was going through?
But the problem is that they've gotten away with this crap for so long that they think that that's just business as usual. And that's why, again, the big problem is not the politicians themselves. The big problem is the bureaucracy that has grown so large. Every time one of these presidents comes up and says, we created so many thousand jobs, what that is your tax dollars paying for more bureaucracy. And people just don't realize that.
The federal government has not created not one blame thing.
Never.
Matter of fact, we'll touch on Tesla. Because because that kind of leads me into another thing that I wanted to talk about with Nikola Tesla anyway. And part of that was when he died, how the government swooped in and sucked up all his work and then made it national security and all this stuff. And you think, because Nikola Tesla's goal, he was brilliant.
Quite possibly the smartest man that has ever walked the face of the planet. But go ahead.
I've been there's a book by I think it's his grandson or great grandson called Wizard, and I've been listening to it some on Audible as we were getting ready to do this podcast that we've been trying to do for feels like 17, 20, 30, 50 years. But just listening to the way he did, because I will admit the first thing, I didn't really know that much really about Tesla other than the AC part and, not real. And the tower that they eventually tore down.
Yeah.
The Ward. Yeah. But the listening to in that book of Wizard of them talking about how he visualized, this guy sat there and visualized the minute pieces. He said, and how the pieces went together and put them together and took them apart in his mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's just, and and some people say, you and I had mentioned this one time before that, or I had asked the question, did you think that he actually invented something new, or do you think he was rediscovering a technology that the Earth had already had? It's not like we were talking about the pyramids and the way they looked like they were, because if you look at the AC current and how he was going to transmit it through the air, it kind of looks a lot like what you would expect if you watched Ancient Aliens or Unexplained or something like that. And they talk about the obelisks and the obelisks, plural, and the pyramids in Egypt, of how you would think that something like that would be put together and work.
Well, and again, I don't recall what my answer was, but I do believe that there was an advanced society prior to the end of the last ice age, when, at the end of the Younger Dryas, there was a cataclysm that occurred, and most likely it was a comet or something of that nature, some celestial wanderer smashing into the polar ice caps that caused them to melt. And that's what raised sea levels 400 feet, while at the same time, the temperature lowered back down to the coldest point that it had ever been registered, because it threw up a plume of dust around the planet. Now, I'm not saying that they were that they were advanced in the same way that we are now, but it stands to reason that human beings haven't really changed all that much in our design. So the people that existed and were technologically advanced before us probably
Wait a minute.
figured out
There
some
there
of the
is
same
one
stuff. But
thing.
go ahead.
There is one thing that has changed in our design.
And what's that?
It is quite obvious we have
Well,
gotten
there's
dumber.
truth to that too. But again, that's largely the advance of technology that's causing that, because people are getting lazy. If you don't have to
Well, they no longer have to think for
correct, and I mean
themselves.
again,
You don't have to learn a foreign language because you open
and it will
Google
translate
Translate
for you.
and it does it, and then half the time it's
Well, that's
wrong anyway. But it just kind of amazes me that I've listened to I'm about all the way through the book now, and I've been reading about Tesla, and it's just seeing some of the things that he had done.
He was amazing
and had invented that we still use today.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was the one that designed the first hydroelectric plant at Niagara
Well,
Falls.
we still use all of it today. We've built on some of it, but Nikola Tesla is responsible for the modern world as we know it. Okay, so DC current is the easiest electrical current to produce. Okay, you just and as a matter of fact, one of the things which we don't know if he was aware of or not, there are microorganisms in the soil that generate electricity. So you can stick a
I didn't know that
there you
either.
go. So you can stick a zinc electrode and a copper electrode in the dirt, and you can put.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the obelisks,
absolutely,
and stuff like that, how they go further down in that tower at Wardenclyffe or whatever it was.
Well, but again, you can, and you'll get an electrical charge. You can stick electrodes into moving water, and it will produce an electrical charge. Not much, but it will produce it. You could have, and it doesn't have to move that much for you to get that. So, I mean, we are surrounded by electricity. And another thing that you can do is you can stick a pole up 300 feet or so in the air, and there is a potential difference in electrical current between the top of the pole and the bottom of the pole as well. So, I mean, there's all kinds of electricity going on around us. And if I remember right, I can't remember the exact frequency at which lightning strikes, but there's basically we're surrounded by electricity. We just can't perceive it, okay, without electronic equipment. But again, Einstein himself said that, and I don't recall the exact quote, but he basically said that Nikola Tesla was the smartest man on the planet, type thing. And I mean, again, the things that the man did, he created remote control for like RV type stuff, for like the things that we use in drones and our remote controlled aircraft and remote controlled cars. He invented that. He made a electric car out of a Packard that would.
That's a heavy automobile there.
And I mean, again, and he was using lead acid batteries, which is old battery technology. We've got much better batteries now.
Yeah, but they can't hold a charge in the cold.
And that thing would go faster than we can, than I think it went 80 miles an hour. And that's, I mean, you think about what the roads were like. That was before the interstate system.
Well, yeah, that's moving back in the day. I mean, really. But I find another thing about him is when he came over here. He came from Serbia, and I think he came to the United States in 1884. And that's where you're talking about the most brilliant person. He had a letter of introduction from Charles Batchelor, that's exactly what the letter said. It said, "Dear Mr. Edison, I know two great men, and you were one of them. The other one is this young man." And so Edison ended up hiring and paying him, offer him like $50,000 if he could improve upon Edison's favored DC generation plants. And Tesla did it, and then Edison stiffed him and wouldn't pay.
And that was true of Edison. It was true of Westinghouse. Basically, So that was the thing about Tesla. He wanted to make the world a better place for everyone.
Better place. Well,
Yeah.
his idea was to give away power for free.
Oh, absolutely. That's why Westinghouse had the Wardenclyffe Tower torn down, and or I don't actually
Hmm.
think he tore it down, but he was funding. What he was doing was he was trying to beat
Well,
Marconi.
the Wardenclyffe Tower, he beat Marconi.
Oh
He
yeah,
actually did it, and then they ended up using
yeah.
his patents. But the Wardenclyffe Tower, I think, actually ended up getting torn down in World War One because they were afraid that German spies would use it to listen in on the secrets of the nation
Oh yeah.
or something.
Well, but the other thing again, one of the, I mean, again, he died alone and as a
Yeah.
pauper. I mean, he, which is an absolute disgusting shame when you look at Edison and Westinghouse and all, and
Hmm.
all these other people that made so much money off of his research and his inventions. And according to the what I've heard anyway, there were supposedly 80 crates of paperwork that had his research and inventions on them. And of
Hmm.
those, I think only 30 have ever been recovered, and they're in a library in Serbia. Now,
Hmm.
from what I understand about it, he was probably dead for several days before the help discovered that he was dead, and his apartment had already been ransacked. And
Hmm.
so all of those cases and cases and cases of things had just evaporated. But I firmly believe,
Hmm.
I mean, among the things that he supposedly invented that we have no record of anymore was the death ray. And I firmly believe that he created
Right.
one. I mean, again, Archimedes,
Well, and he actually got a $25,000 check from the
right.
Soviet Union.
But I mean, Archimedes had a death ray, and I believe it was in the.
And if you don't believe Archimedes had it, just ask Indiana Jones, because in the last movie he went back to meet him.
Yeah, I really hate you brought that up. I was not a fan of that movie.
You know
Oh,
what?
it was
Didn't that
awful.
suck? I just, and I really was, up until that point, Indiana Jones was one of my favorites. I mean, it just really was one
Oh
of the
yeah.
better franchises out there.
Well,
In that book,
mhm,
I was Wizard that I've been listening to and
mhm,
slash reading, kind of half and half
right.
both. It talked about as he was, I think, around like starting in like the early 19
Mhm,
teens, 1910 to the 19
mhm,
early teens. That was when he had actually started withdrawing because he didn't
right.
trust people. And I think nowadays his grandson or great grandson, whichever one he is speculating that he would probably be considered a high functioning autistic person today. But he was toward the end of his life, he became fixated on the number three, and he had to shake hands and washing hands. Every time he shook hands, it had to be done in sets of threes. He and he became fixated with pigeons for
Right.
some reason.
Mhm,
And in particular,
yeah.
there was a white female pigeon that he claimed to love almost as one would love a human. And right before he died, he claimed that the pigeon visited him through a window in the
Mhm,
hotel room, and he believed the bird had come to tell him that she was dying.
mhm,
Because the quote in him, Tesla said he saw two powerful beams of light in the bird's eyes. And he
mhm.
said, it was a real light, powerful and dazzling, blinding, my light more intense than I had ever produced by the most powerful lamps in my laboratory. And he went on to relate to whoever his grandson's source was that the pigeon died in Tesla's arms. And at that moment, the inventor claimed and told everyone that he knew that he had finished his life's work and it was time for him to shuffle off. Now, essentially, he was so fixated on this pigeon that when this pigeon died, he felt that that was his sign that his life's work had ended and it was time for him to essentially just die.
Oh, that's terrible. I'd hate to take a signal that it was time for me to end my life from a pigeon. But,
well, I mean, I don't think he ended his life, but, I think he realized that his race was run or he began to think that his race was run and there wasn't anything left for him to do.
Well, he did. I mean, again, and this is not unusual in geniuses either. He did kind of go off the rails a little
Cuckoo
bit.
for Cocoa Puffs?
Yeah, and I'm not certain about this, but if I remember correctly, he castrated himself because he was apparently quite a ladies' man when he was younger as well, and he castrated himself because it was distracting him from his work. I don't know if that's just a rumor or if that was fact.
Now I haven't. If he wrote if his grandson or great grandson had written about it in his book, I haven't got to that part yet.
But and he did become fixated on pigeons, and I mean, birds are smart critters. They really are. It's amazing.
All animals seem to be they seem to have a more in tune senses than us big dumb humans.
Well, they can tell the difference. They can define what a female is and what a woman is, I think, whereas we don't seem to be able to. But yeah.
Oh, and out comes soapbox number 2.
You knew I had to throw something in there. But yeah, again, you got to remember.
I have to stop you. I have to ask you a question. What do you think about the newest rap sensation taking over the country, boys and girls?
Well, first off, you're going to have to tell me who that is because I don't pay attention to that.
Well, I don't know who the actual rapper is, but there's a verse in it being rapped by Ben Shapiro himself.
Oh, no kidding.
It is, and I probably could have told you the name if I wasn't trying to tell you, but it is actually called Facts.
F-A-X?
Fact. F-A-C-T-S. And the rapper's name is actually Tom McDonald.
Well, I'm going to have to check that out. I'm not a big proponent of rap. Some folks call it music, but it's not actually music.
Well,
it is like the extension of beat,
of like spoken word poetry or something like that
from the 60s.
Well, there's a couple of, there are some songs like everybody, Tupac and Biggie and all this stuff. And, I did like the Hail Mary song by Tupac, Big Papa by Biggie Smalls. And, I just can't believe I'm having a conversation about rappers. But there are some more modern ones today that I like. And I guess you would consider them rappers, but not rappers in the sense of like gangster rap and stuff like that, such as Jelly Roll, Big Smo, and, people like that. And you probably hadn't ever heard either one.
No, I haven't. And again, don't get me wrong. The talent that those folks have is undeniable because I can't make my mouth move at that kind of speed to produce words that fast, amongst other things. And I couldn't remember them if I tried.
We know we both try, and it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. A hypotenuse.
We sound like, that kind of reminds me. Have you seen the picture of our illustrious, wonderful, kind-hearted, grandfatherly President Joseph Robinette Biden wearing a hard
backwards
hat? Yeah.
Yeah.
The running joke used to be when George W. Bush said something and it was a gaffe that some village in Texas had lost its idiot. It looks more like the villages in Delaware.
Well, Joe Biden has been an idiot since he's been Joe Biden. Okay. And that's the whole thing. That's why it's such an absolute embarrassment that my state, the
But they good
state of
folks,
South
folks.
Carolina, is the ones that put him back on the ballot in 2020 and are doing the same thing this
Yeah,
year.
we may, me, I kind of take umbrage with that. I may, and have suffered it. I may have to have a talk with you behind the woodshed after
Oh,
we
I
get
assure
done.
you, I didn't have anything to do with it. So I'd just assume, well, and that's one of the things I was supposed to do. I'm a little upset with that man for more so than usual because I was supposed to do my long cross
Uh-huh.
country flight solo for my private pilot's license last Saturday.
Okay.
Well, so I pulled up the weather briefing and all of that, and lo and behold, there was a flight restriction around 50 miles
Oh,
around
let me
Columbia because
guess.
Joseph R. Biden was in Columbia. And you know what?
What was he doing in
Paying,
Columbia?
I don't know, whatever he does that is going to get him on the ballot.
Well, listen, we know during the day there ain't but 3 or 4 things he does. One of them is try to put sentences together. He fails at that. He eats pudding. He succeeds at that.
And ice cream.
He shits in his pants, and he succeeds at that because they take multiple
Yeah.
pants with him. And then he sniffs children because he's a creepy old pervert.
That is true. But I mean, again, the problem is Joe Biden is not the problem. Joe Biden is a symptom of the problem. And the problem is that there's people
Well,
out there that they think they're voting for people that are going to represent them in the government. And it's just a show.
mhm,
Okay. And
right,
it's going to
right.
be a show. And I mean, again, the man has committed so many treasonous acts as the president and as the vice president
hmm
and has yet to be impeached. Okay.
Well, they're still too busy working on
Well, and
Mayorkas.
exactly. Mayorkas has done things that are treasonous and has not been impeached. And the reason is that all of the Republican politicians are in the pockets of the same donors as the Democrats.
hmm
Okay. And until people stop just standing on the fact, oh, I'm a Democrat. My daddy was a Democrat. My daddy's daddy before him was a Democrat, and all of that nonsense, and believing that there's Republican
Well,
cavalry
though, too,
that's going to
but
come over the hill and save the day, and actually vote some people
but
in
here though,
that will make changes. They're not going to like the people that have the intestinal fortitude to stand up against the news media and the establishment. They're not going to like them
right,
because
right.
they're going to be jerks.
Well, and the Democrats that were your daddy Democrats and your granddaddy Democrats ain't the
No.
Democrats today.
Well, I mean, neither are the Republicans because they're all spineless. Well, not all of them. There are a very small handful that are not completely owned and completely spineless, but they're a tiny fraction of the people in Washington. And I mean, again, and it's the same problem even at the
hmm
state level and even at the local level. And the
Right.
thing is, if you've gone to your local county council or city council meeting, you'll see more people.
I haven't.
I encourage you to go. You will see more members of the council in that meeting than you will see people who are even willing to take an hour of their time to find out what these jackwagons are doing. All right, let's
hmm
talk about Tesla. My blood pressure's going up.
Okay. Well, there was another news article before we get back to Tesla that caught my attention
More
today
important
too.
than the rise of
Is you
syphilis in the
remember?
U.S.? Okay, go ahead,
No,
though.
but we could do
No,
that. That could be next.
go ahead.
But you remember Scott Peterson and Lacey
Yes,
Peterson? He's been in jail for
yes.
murdering Lacey. Well, evidently there is some new DNA evidence that's being tested that might actually exonerate him and actually point to that burglars were actually what killed Lacey Peterson and not Scott Peterson.
Well, so now I'm starting to think of Flashpoint and or the Flash movie where he went back in time and saved his mama or at least saved his daddy, but then he changed.
Well, yeah, but that created the whole unraveling
Well,
of the
yeah, but
world.
then he fixed it, and then he changed Batman from Ben Affleck to George Clooney. So I liked it better when he changed Batman to Michael Keaton. I thought that was a much better.
That was pretty. Yeah, the seeing Michael Keaton come back as Batman, and then the cameo by
Oh yeah,
Christopher Reeve
oh
as
yeah, it was good.
Superman in the multiverse. That was actually
Yeah,
kind of
I
neat.
agree.
But you know, that's one thing about comic books though that really just kind of just gave a sour taste to me. That whole concept of the multiverse. It's like, oh, just kidding. It's World 3. Don't worry, he's not dead in World 4, 5, 6,
Well,
7,000. It's just in World 3.
have you never seen a soap opera? Soap operas have been doing that. If there is a character in a soap opera that has not had amnesia for some period of time
Mm-hmm.
so that they could replay the exact same scripts over and over, I mean, it's just lazy writing. But no, the concept of the
Well, yeah,
multiverse now, and again, Marvel's handling of the multiverse in both Spider-Man Far From Home and in I forget the title of the Doctor Strange movie. I thought both of those were done very well. Okay, because again,
right.
string theory.
Are you talking about the one that had like Tobey
Yes.
Maguire,
Mhm.
Tom Holland,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Andrew
No Way Home.
Garfield
Yeah,
all in
and
the same
that
one?
I thought they did a
Yep.
great job.
I agree. That was a good
Well,
movie.
and they handled the multiverse well. Okay. Now, and another thing that they did, if you know the What If series on Disney
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they handle the multiverse really well there too. I think
I don't know if I've seen the
I
What If
highly
series.
recommend it. Highly recommend it. But the thing of the matter is, and we've talked about this before as well. I mean, as human beings, we have a finite brain, and we are constrained
Right.
by our ability to observe 4 dimensions. Okay. And that's it.
Right.
And the fourth dimension, we are only able to observe in a linear fashion. Now, math tells us
Mm-hmm.
that that is a construct that dimension should be able to mathematically move in either direction. Now, I may, again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a nuclear physicist, and I didn't sleep in a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I may have some of this wrong, but that's my understanding. There's always multiple coordinate points on any axis, so uh, you
Right.
know, but we are constrained to flow through time in a linear fashion, which is why we can't go back and capture photographic evidence of the Big Bang or Jesus Christ walking on
Right.
the water or anything like that. Moses parting the Red Sea, what have you. Now,
Mm-hmm.
but string theory says that there are multiple possible dimensions and multiple possible universes that could take up the same space. And that's one of those things I kind of feel like UFOs.
Kind of like in Fringe where they
Oh,
were
yeah, I
colliding.
love Fringe. And a matter of fact, I got my girlfriend started watching Fringe, and she yells at me and throws things at me when she because I'm making her watch stuff that she gets interested in, and she wastes a lot of
Uh,
time, but she's got to catch up.
Fringe is Fringe and the X Files were my two. In Fringe though, I actually preferred the earlier seasons to the later
Oh, I agree.
seasons. And the X Files were just phenomenal. I mean, they were
Yeah, but
just
they kind
amazing.
of fell off too. They kind of went through the writing.
Well, it's kind of like anything else. After it's been around so long, there ain't so much content you can
Well,
talk
and the
about.
bottom line is that, if anybody does actually know the truth, I do agree that the truth is out there. But again, to back to what I was saying earlier, I kind of think that is a possibility that it is
Mm-hmm.
interdimensional crossover that produces aliens and shadow peoples and all kind of woolly boogers and things like that, as well as UFOs. Okay. Now, again, a
Right. Right.
UFO is an unidentified flying object, or a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, whatever we want to call them these days.
Right.
Um, but anything that you see in the air that you don't know what it is an unidentified.
It's unidentified.
So, but the bottom line is, and I've got some good friends that are smart people that are absolutely convinced in flat Earth theory. Now, some of that, I
Oh, you've been talking to my
no, I have
wife.
not. I have not spoken to her.
You rascal. You've been
No, it's actually one of my good
you've been.
friends. It's actually a pilot. He's had his pilot's license for a long
Oh
time,
Lord.
and he is a
No, wait a minute. He's a
pilot.
pilot, and so you're up in the air to see the actual
Yep.
curvature of the Earth, and you think it's flat.
That is, and again, that he's one of those folks. I do tell him all the time, you know what? You may be right. I
You
don't
may
think.
be right. That's why this podcast ain't politically correct. We're
Right.
just correct.
Now, and again, so the bottom line is, if anybody does know the truth about unidentified aerial phenomena or unidentified flying objects, they are for certain sure not telling us what it is. And so you're going to reach a point where
Right.
you can't actually reveal the truth. And after a while, people are just going to get tired, So it's
Well, and they're going to be
oh yeah,
desensitized, and they're just going to think it's a conspiracy theory and just kind of ignore it until you have them 10-foot aliens like they swore up and down were walking down the street in downtown
well,
Miami.
and exactly. Now, and again, my whole thing is I have seen things in my life that I cannot explain. Okay. And
I think we
yeah,
all
and
have.
I know that, I mean, there are people, I know there's other folks that have seen things they can't explain either. Okay. Now, have I seen a ghost? I don't know. I kind of think I have on more than one occasion. I've never seen an alien, but I have seen a shadow person. Okay. And
Yeah. Well, now you may have seen an alien, just not
well,
like
and
you're
it's
thinking.
entirely possible. And I do firmly believe in demons and in angels because they are mentioned in the
Hmm.
Bible. And I mean,
Yep.
back then people didn't write
Except
stuff down
the
just to write it down. Yeah.
just willy nilly, right? And of course, the description given of angels in the Bible is considerably different than what we imagine them
Oh
to
yeah,
look like
absolutely.
today.
Well, and again, I love Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End because when the aliens
Hmm.
showed up, they hung around for, I believe it was 40 years until people got used to the fact that they were there before they revealed themselves because they looked like the description of Satan himself with wings and horns and cloven hooves.
Hmm.
Now, yeah,
Speaking of that, I saw an article also the other day, and I don't know if this is actual fact or not, but they were presenting it like it was news. It may not have been. I could be
uh-huh,
wrong. But they're supposedly were digging somewhere in Siberia and found this angel statue kneeling with wings and was massive. They don't know how old it
right.
is. And it's just unbelievable. They think it may be a representation of the fallen angels
The
or
Watchers,
something.
maybe.
But, well, it could be possible, but they were talking about, it's one of those things that they're just not sure exactly what it is, how it got there, and speculating, who made it, why it was made, kind of like everything
Well,
else.
again, now, so look at, I mean, to me, that's just another instance of an out of place artifact, like the London hammer, the Antikythera mechanism, all of these things that according to our concept of humanity and human evolution should not and cannot exist. but they find back in the days when people heated their homes with coal, they were constantly
Mm-hmm.
finding old artifacts made out of metal, bronze and copper and
Right.
stuff like that that were in the coal deposits. And it takes a hot minute to make a coal deposit.
Right.
Now, they
Right.
have, I think it's pretty much been discovered that, that the oil and whatnot is, or at least a form of it, is made by bacteria. Okay. That it's not
Okay.
um, dissolved dinosaur meat that,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but again, that stuff has to sit around and cure for an awful long time before it becomes coal. So,
And even longer before it becomes diamonds.
yeah, but you can make a diamond in your microwave with tinfoil and graphite.
You're gonna have to get a new microwave
Yes, you are.
afterwards.
But if you ever want to destroy a microwave and make an industrial diamond, you can do it.
Not working on making diamonds. I'm still perfecting my LSD
There
recipe.
you go again.
Where is Walter Bishop
Oh
when
yeah,
you
I
need
mean, again, that is that yeah. Even in episode, I think it's episode 2, the first time he mixes LSD. But anyway, golly. Well, yeah, and he started making his own pharmaceuticals because he
because that's
didn't
right.
like the ones.
And when he wants milk, he just has a cow over there. He just goes and gets a squirt and calls it a day. But one of the speaking of Fringe, though, one of the funniest things about that show though was
Oh yeah.
Astrid and how he always called her something different.
Except there was one. Yeah, it was towards the end, and he actually called her by her correct name and a couple. Anyway, I don't remember it, but no, that was a well written show.
Well, he had a moment of clarity.
He had several moments of clarity, but
I'm still trying to have one. I do feel better though after sitting on customer service hold hell for hours over the last couple
I told
days.
you the doctor was in.
Well, he is. And I apologize to everyone that's listening if this sounds like crap, but our normal software ain't working. We are evidently too dumb to get anything else to work. So we've got something hodgepodge together. And hopefully you're going to listen to this and it's going to be funny. If you don't like it, at least we hope we pissed you off. Because other than that, we really don't give a flying flip something else with the F word, because I don't even know where the General Lee's parked at tonight to even cover up the cuss words.
We did go through an awful lot of effort, and your audio sounds significantly better, so maybe they got something straightened out. But yeah, we went through 4 days of experimentation and stuff trying to get this to work again. And so, I mean, and all for you folks, all so that we could either make you laugh or piss you off, or maybe both. I don't know.
And we stay pissed off all the time.
That's like that's like the secret of the Hulk, from the Avengers. I'm always angry.
Oh yeah. I never have liked the Hulk.
Why not?
It was okay when it was Lou Ferrigno, but I just ain't never been impressed with him.
Even when he was Smart Hulk?
I didn't like him at any time. He was just kind of dumb.
Well,
Now, I'm not a big, and truthfully, I will preface all of that by saying I am not a big Marvel fan. I do prefer DC. Really, the only 2 Marvel characters that I like are Doctor Strange and Spider-Man.
You don't like Captain America?
So,
America's Boy Scout?
Captain America, no, Captain America's too cliche.
Really? Okay, that's it.
Iron Man is, I don't know. He's Marvel's version of Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's just better. Of course, the Bat family is my favorite. So I'm going to obviously say Batman. It's far superior to Iron Man.
Okay.
and whatnot. It's just, I don't know.
Well, I guess it just,
It's just one of
they
those
they
things.
all, all different things appeal to different people, but I don't recall.
Right. And for
Yeah.
different reasons.
And so, I mean, again, Marvel had both the Thing from the Fantastic Four and the Incredible Hulk, which were, just
Hmm.
the great big,
Essentially the
yeah,
same character. One was green and one was made
right,
out of rocks.
exactly. I don't recall there being a DC character that was the same as them. Well, no, you also had Colossus. He was big and strong and made out of metal. So they had three.
Yeah. But was he? Was
Yeah,
he
he was
Marvel?
Marvel. He was an X-Man.
Uh, okay. Colossus was Marvel
Yep.
too. All right. Well, there is one.
Uh-huh.
Well, he's not a hero though. He's a
Right.
bad guy.
And that would be
Solomon
Grundy. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah. So he was the
Yeah.
equivalent to the Hulk, I guess, but he was a bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give you that.
So, there are, you can find the correlations. And, I've got a friend that, well, I call him a friend. He's not really a friend. He's a social
I'm
media
right
friend.
here. If you're going to
And,
talk about, I'm kidding.
well, but he's a writer and he co-authors some books, and he's got a superhero series called, the Raptor series is the first three books, and it's talking about a sidekick and his progressions up in the superhero ladder and all this stuff. And then the new series is the Black Harrier series, to where he actually takes his mentor's mantle and becomes the main hero. And they're really well done, but you see the heavily influences of DC and Marvel and the different aspects and stuff that have gone around to make the storylines that they are in those comic books. But they are well written. The first one, I think, is called Sidekicks. It's really good. Would recommend, if you're looking for like a superhero story to read, look it up. I think you can listen to it on Audible for free. And I don't think the Kindle books are very high, but they've got a lot of stuff in that science fiction genre, even kind of, I don't want to say Stephen Kingish, but more along the lines of like the Dark Tower stuff and things like that. And I mean, they're really, all the authors that I have read books from under this label, I think it's Athlon Books or something to that effect. They are all very well written, and the books are actually quite good for people that you would think are not quite as famous as maybe they should be, because some of these books that I have read are considerably better than books by major authors that by household name.
Well, and again, yeah, I actually met a fellow on an airplane one time that was an author, and I bought a copy of his book, and it was a really well done book. But again, if you look at it, there are, and I've heard it said that there are really only three, I think, stories that all, for all of the literature for all time. And then I've actually even heard it that there's only one actual theme, and it is the search for self. So,
well, I could do that. I mean, I truly could see.
Well, and there's a couple of things that we can talk about. I've got a book that I can share with you that you can read. It sounds very similar to Don Quixote when you first hear it, but it's The Knight in Rusty Armor, and we could talk about that. Now, another one, I think we could probably could talk about The Watchmen, which, and as far as graphic novels, there are a lot. I mean, especially now, the content of graphic novels, of course, is that's where the Dark Knight characters came from. Was graphic novels and things of that nature, and there's a lot of them out there, and they've got some good content, and they do knock the heroes down a peg or two and make them much more relatable as human beings.
Well, and because that's what's the old adage, you see Superman, but Superman can't be brave.
Right.
There's no way he can be brave because you can't.
You
There's
can't
no
hurt him,
way
yeah.
you can have bravery when you
Right.
can't be hurt.
Exactly.
And it's just crazy. Well, that sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna go search for
All right.
myself, and we'll catch it again next week. And that's the snout to the curly tail and everything in between. And we got.
All right, you crazy bunch of motherfuckers. Wait, can we say mother? Anyway, you've been listening to the Carolina Underground. It isn't politically correct, it's just correct. Our motto is, if you can't go balls deep, don't go at all. Actually, that's not our motto, and I'm sorry, I don't even know what that meant. All right, we gotta go. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you didn't, we hope it really pissed you off. Follow us on Twitter at Carolina UNDGRND Underground, get it? Or drop us an email at Carolina UNDGRND, get it? At northstate.net. We want to hear from you. Y'all be cool. See you next time on Carolina Underground.